Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Dev Life podcast. My name is Brooke, and I'm definitely here with my very awesome co-host, that is Matt.
Hello.
And then on today's show, we're kind of going in a couple directions, but really diving into the future of software security. So, if you're a developer worried about how AI is changing the security game, or if you just want to know what skills and ethics you need to stay ahead, then you're definitely in the right place because we're going to be unpacking a lot of that and really just kind of catching up with our guests. It's been a little while since I've spoken with her, and I think it's just great to kind of check in with what she's up to. But a lot in store for this episode. So, everybody, we're super excited to have Alisa Duncan on the show today. So, welcome.
Hello, thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
So excited. Just to kind of introduce her a little bit, Alisa is a Google developer expert. And is it in Angular or what areas do you have that in?
Ah, Angular and a new one actually just this year is identity.
Ah, awesome. Okay. I'm wanting to get the AI one, but it's currently they're not taking any applicants right now. So we'll see. That's TBD, but that's amazing. So I'm excited to hear that you've got a couple then. But she's also a published Pluralsight author, and I'm going to have her share a little bit more about that in a minute. And she's the principal developer advocate at Okta. So lots of great things there. But yeah, I want to hear more about this course that you've recently published.
Yes, it is a course about internationalization and localization in Angular. And I did this course previously, but this new one is a refresh using some more modern Angular versions and setting up Angular project more in line with what we're seeing now. And then we're taking a application that isn't ready for a global audience, and then adding in all of the necessary foundational components as well as the actual translations language. We even talk about RTL languages as well and how we handle that, as well as different writing systems. So yeah, it should be pretty cool. Talk about currency. So kind of a broad overview of things you might have to consider when you want to take your Angular app to a beyond whatever language set that you normally use.
Nice.
That's very cool. Really looking forward to hearing your insights and diving deeper into that. But as we're getting started, and since this episode is about security, we thought maybe we'd start by asking a couple somewhat related personal questions, if you're up for them.
I
So
will certainly try. Yep.
awesome. So the first is, what were you afraid of as a kid? Like, what got you into security?
What got me into security? That's different. When I was
I
a
guess that's true.
kid, I'd say maybe I'm not a fan still of spiders, but that's
Uh,
probably not the impetus for going into the security space. Uh,
Well, maybe.
yeah, maybe. Right.
developmental connection there, maybe.
Sure.
Squashing bugs, right?
There you
Squashing
go.
bugs.
There you go.
Exactly. That
Love it.
works. That works. Yep.
That actually is a big one of mine too. I've never liked spiders.
Mm. Like snakes, no problem. I
Really?
actually, yeah, no problem at all. Actually, I have a story. When I was younger, I found a snake and I tried to take it home to my parents. I
Oh,
remember this, like when I was like maybe 8 or so.
yeah.
No problems with snakes. Spiders, though, not a fan. I like looking at the really pretty ones outside.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
I
Nice.
don't even like that.
I also figure spiders might be a good time, for it being October, close to Halloween.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think by the time this episode airs, Halloween will have come and gone, but that's
Mm-hmm.
okay. It's okay.
Yeah.
So I guess what did get you into security then?
Ooh, so it's actually more of the opportunity of being able to take coding and development, as well as being able to marry that with my passions of creating content, organizing events, working with developers. And then so that landed me in DevRel. And at where I lived previously at Kansas City, the Okta had a pretty good reputation there. So it just worked out that way that it was at Okta. So it wasn't like I was necessarily seeking a security role. It just worked out.
It's funny how life does that. It kind of
hmm
leads you where you need to go.
Yep, for sure.
Yeah. Well, do you have anything that you would consider like a security blanket then of sorts now? Like, I don't know. Growing up, my mom, we'd always like when we'd get on an airplane, she always had that one trusty jacket or like sweater that she'd put on. It was kind of her security blanket, that kind of a thing. But do you have anything like that? Just something that brings you comfort?
Oh, I mean, certainly there is a lot of like nostalgia and comfort foods from childhood, right? That is like, oh, today I just really wish I had some whatever that might be. So, I guess thing that I had yesterday for lunch after working on some exciting, interesting, painful work was lunch. I made myself some spam and rice. It was-
Oh,
yeah,
nice.
yeah.
'And you said spam, right?
Spam, yeah, yeah, spam.
Nice. Okay.
Comfort food, yes, for
I was
me.
just gonna say because you just got back. We were just talking about this. You just got back from Hawaii, so was it kind of
hmm
inspired? Okay, nice.
Well, not necessarily. I mean, I did eat it growing up as well, but yeah,
Okay.
it's definitely inspired. I do miss the spam musubis from there, from Hawaii.
They see now Matt was saying he's not been to Hawaii. So Matt, one cool thing about Hawaii is that I mean, first of all, it's very expensive to import foods. So
Mm.
spam is like just kind of part of their everyday thing there because it's a cheap way to get in meat. And even at the McDonald's, you can get a spam burger. So it's awesome.
That is awesome. I remember being a kid and my dad brought me downstairs to the food storage and handed me a can of spam and was like, "Hey, this is the good stuff." And
Yeah, yeah,
this is amazing.
It's
Why,
true.
why is this in the food storage? Let's get this up.
yeah. No longer your dad goes back down, it's all gone.
Yeah.
What happened to the spam?
All right. Well, now we know a little bit about Alyssa and what got you a little bit about getting what got you into security and all that. Now maybe we can get into why security is important and how it everyone can get into security and what it looks like in 2025. So on that note, you were sharing quite a few subjects we could have dived into about Okta and everything. So I guess a place we could start is how would you say the landscape of software security has shifted for developers this year, and especially with AI?
Yeah, I think that is the shift, right? AI is here, and the hype is turning into reality, I guess, for many folks. So that is definitely a big shift, and a lot of companies, a lot of enterprises are trying to figure out how do they incorporate AI into their work, into their sorry, I'll say it again. So a lot of enterprises are trying to figure out how to incorporate AI into their work, into their um, processes, and then how to do so securely, right? Because it's so exciting to start this new thing to see how it could help with productivity. But on the other hand, we do have security to still think about, right? It's not just you have to think about everything holistically.
Yeah. Yeah, that's something that has me worried a lot. I'm just now we have Cursor and all these different LLMs we can use with it, and like there's DeepSeek, right, and Grok, and Gemini is probably pretty safe, but it makes you wonder. Well, and if you're not on a paid plan, it makes you wonder how much of your data is what's going to happen to it. So I'm curious if you could speak to that at all.
Yeah, so at least at Okta, what we're doing is really evaluating each one of the LLMs. So we don't presume that all LLMs are equal, right?
Mm.
So you may be allowed to use Gemini, but you may not be allowed to use, I'll just pick some other like Claude in other use cases
Mhm.
until there's a vetting, especially when it comes to proprietary information, sensitive information, customer data, and these are the sort of things that organizations that we work for are really looking at to say, i- is it safe enough for, do I have the data protection that I need? Do I have the security measures and the enforcements that I need? It's not just open the floodgates and just start running. That was the hype maybe earlier this year or last year, but now there's a lot more thought towards controlled measures, considering what we've seen in the news, right? Where AI agents kind of go rogue sometimes, and how do we prevent that from happening?
Oh yeah, that's such a great point. Like there's not only the measure of like protecting your data, but there's also like protecting yourself from AI giving you some non-deterministic result that you do not want, right?
Right. And then how they're using that data. So certainly, I mean, I think we can all state as users of AI, we might ask Gemini or somebody a question, a question. Like I've used AI to help me plan itineraries for vacations. I'm going overseas. I don't know the area. Help me plan an itinerary that allows me to do these things. And I kind of like have it figure out traveling salesman for me, but it may not be accurate. I've had it come back with suggestions to visit places that aren't open at that hour, or things like that. So you can't always trust the results. But then, what is
Mhm.
it doing with my prompts? What is it doing with the data? Where is it finding this information? How is it gathering it, right? So when we take that into our day-to-day work at a company, now we have to ensure it's not using anything that we want to protect about customer information or PII or things like that.
Yeah. Have you found that there are any common mistakes that engineers are making?
I don't know if there's necessarily common mistakes, other than maybe the same old mistakes.
Okay.
And at the actually, I was just talking about this with my coworkers yesterday. At the root of all of this, despite the hype that AI brings and is, their services, their software services or software applications, and we should treat them the same. So a lot of what I have seen is allowing the agent or allowing your like MCP client or whatever, just blanket access to things, right? We're not scoping or limiting what it can do. We're using an API key, which you generate with your own user scopes, which means that it can act on the behalf of your user entirely, as opposed to using something like OAuth to say you're allowed to do these sort of actions only in this limited fashion. So we're over provisioning and over allowing for AI to act upon our behalf. And that's
Mm,
where things get scary.
yeah.
Oh my gosh, as you're saying that, I'm starting to think of a lot of things I need to look into.
Right.
Right.
Right. So an example would be if you take a look at the GitHub MCP,
Mhm.
uh, which I have used. It's awesome. There is an option for you to use an API token that you generate, right? Some GitHub personal access token, or there's an option to use OAuth. Use OAuth. That way you can limit the scopes.
Yeah,
Okay.
so much sense.
So I know you've been doing different speaking uh engagements, I guess. I don't know what to call it. You've been speaking a lot at different events. And, you're such an expert with authentication. You actually gave a talk recently also on like identity guardians. And I'm just wondering if there's anything with what you're doing there at Okta that maybe has really been exciting for you in this last year. Just something that you feel like is really stepping up the game, making authentication even better.
Well, the thing I really appreciate, and actually honestly like, truly enjoy about being at Okta is that Okta is so standards focused. So Okta isn't necessarily looking at, well, here's a feature set that we want our developer advocates to evangelize, right? For me, that would be pretty hard to do. I'm not in sales.
Mhm.
However, um, being able to focus on standards and helping to contribute to standards like the OAuth extension specs or the OpenID Foundation, that is exciting to me. So with that sort of note, Okta is also contributing to ways how we can safely access application information across domains, which also applies to AI agents and AI applications as well, because at the end of it, they're just applications, right? So being able to help contribute and to talk about how we could safely, as a community, utilize the standard, regardless of what sort of identity provider that you might have, that I find really exciting and being able to learn more about it.
Nice.
Yeah. Um, could you dive in just a little bit more about what Okta is and everything Okta does for those less familiar with it?
Sure. Yes, yes. So Okta is an identity provider, which means that it's the service that will centralize and manage your user identities. Okta is so if you're able to sign in, like you say, sign in with Google, whatever, that's an identity provider. Okta provides a way to do that as well, and also to connect a lot of different applications up to one. So for enterprises, that means they would have like single sign-on across all of their workforce productivity tools, and they could centralize all the user management in one system, which is Okta. Other sort examples of IDPs would include like Auth0 or Keycloak. So it's a similar thing, just with some maybe different scale, different target audience. Okta happens to be one that targets more of an enterprise systems.
What I find interesting too, kind of going off of, what Okta does is like what you do there specifically, and you're the senior developer advocate. So how are you kind of bridging that gap then between the core engineering team that's building the product and the developers who are using it?
Right. So in my role, I get to one, educate, right? So I get to educate whatever target audience that is via speaking or content creation, writing a blog post about why it's important for people to use like the OAuth as opposed to API keys and what advantages that gets you, right? So it's education about OAuth, education about OpenID Connect. And then in terms of the engineering products, we work quite closely with product team, actually, not the engineering team, which is wonderful because that allows me to be dev zero. I'm the ones who want to figure out the sticky points, the friction points, and advocate for a better developer experience back to our product team before it lands on you know you as a consumer of
Okay.
Okta's plate. Or also we'll hear things from outside the in the ecosystem that say we need to prepare for this because I know Signals is here in Angular,
Mm.
right? So we need to make sure that we're thinking about that in our SDK. Or I've talked to developers who are trying to do this particular thing um, in their country. Like I had one ask me about digital signatures and how that works with, uh, being able to show the chaining of that. Is there something that we're doing for this that would help this party out, right? So I would try to be that liaison and that bridge.
Okay. So then kind of going back to Matt's questions about AI, like how am I going to ask that? Like from your perspective as a developer advocate, like what would you say is a critical conversation or a piece of advice that you would give to engineers about integrating that AI safely and effectively into their projects?
Yeah, I think it's exactly what I have mentioned
Okay.
already previously, is that you don't want to overprivilege, you don't want to overscope.
Okay.
And from an enterprise point of view, like your enterprise, your IT group is going to want to manage that, right?
Mhm.
So, um, yeah, so that's how some of that like cross app access ability helps with that as well. Yeah,
Makes mm,
and
okay.
I should point out there's a difference between using AI versus building AI, right? And I haven't
Right.
gotten into a whole lot of the building AI. The OWASP actually has a really great like top 10 for Gen AI. So if you're building AI, follow that. If you're using AI in enterprise, whether that's a different set of information.
I
So
haven't looked at that. I was hearing that they're updating the OWASP principles this year. Am I was that correct? And have you looked at them?
Well, there is a OWASP top 10 specifically for Gen AI. And
Okay.
that was what I was referring to. There's also just the OWASP top 10 that I believe is updating or
Okay.
has updated. Yeah.
Very cool.
so does is like would the traditional ones we all think of, are those in the OWASP top 10 for Gen AI? Like is Gemini and ChatGPT in there?
Um, No, so the OWASP top 10 for Gen AI are things about security vulnerabilities when building
Oh, got
AI.
it.
Yeah, so those are things like thinking about prompt injection or data poisoning or things like that. That's really only really truly relevant for people who are building AI tools versus consuming AI tools.
Gotcha. Okay, yeah, this isn't a tier list of which AIs are the same. Um,
Right.
I mean, back to what the thing we were talking about earlier, like there's two sides to this. Yeah, there's the usage of AI, right? So I'm
Mhm.
curious, it's like a security focused organization, if y'all are like comfortable using like Copilot or Cursor and like having AI code for you and what that looks like in your organization.
Yes, I know the engineering team is using Copilot, and I think there's only specific sets of LLMs that are allowed for that. On my team, it's a little bit more open because everything we do is public, right? We don't have any IP. Everything goes in public GitHub. We want to make sure, though, that we're still following security best practices. So that absolutely still, all code should still go through a security review, and it does at Okta regardless. And uh, yeah, you could use AI as a lift, not as the replacement necessarily, not without a lot of vetting.
Yeah. I know we were kind of talking before we started, and I know you're not uh doing meetups quite as often as you used to, but I know you've done a lot of meetups, you've organized a lot, you've done a lot of mentoring with NG girls, different groups. So this is sort of a two-part question because I'm curious how AI has enhanced or even hindered or just changed your personal development process, but then how you've used it as you've mentored or coached others, or how you would like to use it even.
Yeah, that's a really great question. Like, how do we incorporate it, right? And I think there's different ways that you can. Now, I gave one example for a personal thing. I used it to help me come up with the travel itineraries, solve traveling salesman
Mm,
sort of problems, right? Like help me come up
yeah,
with a travel plan that allows me to do these things and it's in the same geographic area, so I'm not traveling back and forth too much and make that a AI's problem. But from a like a some of my own, side projects sort of thing. I'm working on another Pluralsight course, and I started feeding in like prompts to have it help me generate an outline, and then really try to challenge the responses that it gave. Right, so I can say, well, come up with an outline for this topic in this format. It needs to be, excellent the time, and it comes back with stuff. Then I could turn around and then ask, are developers concerned about this? Should I focus more attention on that? Is this still a problem when this other thing occurs? Like a lot of challenging, it's kind of an ongoing conversation to help refine that output. So I've been using that quite a bit for that sort of come up with something, but I don't just take the first response, right?
Okay. I think that's super, super important. It's so tempting though, right? Like it thinks and it's so polite and it's like, oh, what a great question. Let me give you this answer. And you just want to take it and go with it.
Yeah.
And it makes it so easy, but you're so right. Like I think
Mhm.
that you know, it's almost like getting a doctor's opinion in a way. It's like, well, get your second opinion and make sure that the first one is legit and makes sense. And
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah. So I do use it for a lot of like gut checks like that.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I've definitely had it where I've like asked AI a question our team's wondering, and it very convincingly told me that I can do something a certain way. And then I go tell the team, guys, we can do this. And that's worded convincingly and I'm like, yes, I'm so cool. And then uh I'm just grateful when people poke holes in that and I realize that the AI was wrong, right?
Hmm. Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. Poke holes at your AI
Yeah.
as you're talking to it. Yeah.
For sure.
Do you have a go-to LLM that you prefer over others, or do you use them all? Or
I
like,
think I'm exploring.
okay.
Um, yeah, so we have Gemini at work, and I also have Gemini my personal plan. So that's probably mostly what I use just for I will call it like chitter chatter sort of thing, but it's not the best at code. So playing around with different other LLMs for the coding aspect. I do have a little bit of trouble though getting really good like specific Angular code. That might be one where it's not
Uh,
maybe fed in quite as much because of perhaps used by enterprises. So everything's like guarded, in private
right.
repos. I'm not sure. Yeah.
It's been interesting because Matt and I have been doing this talk. We've been going around to different conferences, and
Hmm.
uh, it was actually inspired because ng-conf had a pirate theme this year, and so we thought, oh, why don't we do something that's a little bit pirate themed? And so we've been pitting different LLMs against each other in a sort of AI pirate code off. And it's been very interesting. It's Claude, Gemini, and ChatGPT are the ones
Hmm.
we've been doing. And my initial instinct, like when we did it the first couple times, even when we were practicing, was, well, we're using Angular code. So of course Gemini will be the best, right? Because they're both
Hmm.
Google products. Not necessarily, but I will say that as we've kept doing it over time, Gemini does seem to be kind of outperforming the others a little bit, and it'll be interesting.
Oh.
I think, as there is this, like, battle of LLMs going on and AI, I think they'll kinda trade off here and there, but Gemini is definitely it's come a long way, and it's
Hmm.
been exciting to see. I'm relying on it more than I have in the past.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I would love to see that. Thinking of which, has anybody here tried out the Angular MCP server yet?
No.
I have not, but I want to.
Ooh,
Yeah.
yeah. No, that I've been playing around
Have
with
you?
it. Yeah, and I have it. I have both the Angular MCP server and the GitHub MCP server connected to VS Code, so I can just chat and ask questions, get info. It's been pretty handy.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, shifting gears a little bit.
Hmm.
So in your experience as a senior developer advocate, what strategies work best to foster ongoing security awareness on a team?
Well, that is a timely question because October is Security Awareness
True.
Month. So,
Matt's a genius.
yes, for sure. So I really like what Okta does for this. They have a lot of different security, actually, or a security company, security specific themed activities, including like AI hackathons with security, of course. And if you're so desire to do some like red team, blue team sort of offensive, defensive actions, they do have that. You can join in. I have not joined in on that with other commitments, unfortunately, but doing things like that, having conversations like we have bots that will do different sorts of security games as well in October. Those are
Oh,
all fun ways to think about security and how you could use it every day, learn from it. So,
That
yeah.
is so cool. So I am a game dev on the side. I
Okay.
love gamifying things, and
Yeah.
hearing that, it's like I feel like in the security world, it's like I a lot of places I see it feels like it's a heavy thing, you know? And
Mm.
the
right.
dev's life being in security sounds stressful. And but so then we bring you on this podcast and you seem so happy and like love your job. And I see, and hearing that, I think that's a big indicator. It sounds like y'all really um make it a good experience doing security. It's not just a blame game, but it's like it's a actual gamified thing y'all are having fun with. And man, I think that's something everyone should do more.
Yeah, for sure. I think that there's really good ways to help bring security into conversations, and really, it's fun to see that happen at Okta at such a large scale, for sure.
Do you have an example, something that comes to mind of a game that you've done? I love learning this because I think you can also adapt it to other topics as well. But yeah, have you seen one that's just gone really well?
Well, I played last year's Security Awareness Month game religiously because it was like a Wordle, but it was for
Oh,
security words. It was kind of
okay.
fun. So, and pretty quick and pretty easy, which was nice. Um, Honestly, the offense defense thing, that's like a good half day commitment, right? So that's a bit more, maybe more than I want to chew, but just like the small little security quizzes, little security games like that. Those have been super fun.
Okay. I love that. I heard this one story about a girl. It wasn't even like a programming team necessarily. They did work with the engineering team,
Hmm.
but they would put on regular hackathons, and then they'd have the CEO and like other, like VPs come in, and they would be like the judging committee, but it was basically like a Shark Tank.
Hmm.
And so each team, they were pretty general with like what they were, here's sort of what we want you to build, but of course it was taking their product already and like coming up with something that the team felt like would be a next great feature, a next great release. And then they would get up and do a Shark Tank pitch basically and try to sell the upper management on this new product, this new feature. And I guess the CEO and like all these leaders kind of took on the personalities of some of those actual Shark Tank judges.
Hmm.
So it just sounded like a riot. But things like that I think are just so it's perfect. Like you have both said, like we need to have more fun. And I think with AI, with advancements in technology, there's just so much pressure for you have to be faster, and I think that's really losing a lot at the heart of what engineering is supposed to be in some ways. It's like, yes, of course we want speed, but we need to make sure that we're not putting out buggy things and stuff that's just going to lead to spaghetti code in the end or have a lot of tech debt. And so, yeah, there's just that pressure. And I think it's good to inject that fun back into things and just remember that we are still humans and humans really are smarter than AI. We really are in the end.
Hmm.
But
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
AI is really just pattern recognition when you get deep into it, and it's not, it's going off info that exists and dimensional Boolean, you know, evaluations of that on a massive scale. But it's like it's I saw this meme once that someone posts something on Reddit and then someone searches something on ChatGPT and then they respond to Reddit and it's really just Reddit like talking to itself. And so yeah,
Oh,
have
that is
fun activities to create. Just man, we need more of that.
yeah. So one thing I don't know, I think this is kind of a fun question for you because you do go around, you do speak at conferences and then you also have these courses and they're not all on the same topic, right? Like you have a very diverse set of topics and specialities and things. And I'm curious if someone were to sit down with you, like if they brought you into their company and just said, teach us something that like is your most passionate thing right now? Like what would what do you most want to share with the Angular community about identity, authentication, authorization, anything that you're doing there with your team?
Hmm. The most interesting or exciting thing.
Or just the thing you're the most passionate about, the thing that maybe you feel like a lot of teams are just not understanding or kind of missing.
Well, there's definitely going back to the those standards and extension specs. There's definitely understanding and figuring out how they work with Angular front end, applications like that have different security needs than the server side rendered applications. But yeah, I think maybe beyond that, I don't know. It's most of my focus has not been in Angular this year, so that's kind of
Okay.
a tough question
Yeah, that's okay.
for me to answer. Yeah.
Okay, I have a question for you. What if you're willing to, whatever one you're willing to share, but what is the biggest like security just worry you've had? I'll tell you, I'll start by telling mine to be vulnerable. I once left a token visible in a GitHub repo and got Bitcoin farmed for $30,000. I will never do that again. That was like 10 years ago, but have you ever had any crazy thing that happened that's like a battle scar you learned from?
Oof. A battle scar that I learned from insecurity like that. Hmm.
The fact that you don't have an answer immediately means you're really good at security. So.
Oh, I don't know about that. I think it's I don't think I have anything for you. And you can totally scrub this this answer from the
Okay, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Fan of
So
that though.
one way I always like to kind of end the episode though is leaving it up to you. Is there anything else that comes to your mind related to anything we've talked about or even unrelated, but just something that you kind of like to, leave as like a last thought?
leave as a last thought. I think it's just that I agree with your earlier statement, Brooke, that AI is being used to pressure devs to produce more. And yeah, I think that over time, I do believe that things will balance out and leadership will realize it's not the magic bullet, right? It's not going to solve everything. So until then, I guess be suspicious of AI slop and to challenge AI as you use it, but also be open to finding ways that you can or incorporate it safely into your day-to-day applications so that it does give you the productivity lift that you might be looking
Yeah.
for, especially from the tedious tasks.
Right. So, there's always that question of, is AI going to replace software engineers? And, I think everybody today would say no, not currently. But do you think it will get to that point? I'm curious your thoughts on that.
Maybe it will replace some aspects, but I think there'll always be a need for software engineers. We'll just probably be doing different things. That's my
Yeah.
guess.
Yeah. Cool.
Our work will evolve. But it won't necessarily be the same.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, we just have a couple rapid fire questions for you now. uh,
Sounds good.
Short questions, and we can have just a couple word answers to them. So, what's one tech gadget you can't live without but think is totally overrated?
I think it's probably adding all the smart features to like appliances. Um,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, like I like getting the notification that my oven is preheated, but I don't totally need that at all, right?
Isn't that so true, though? You know what? I have had 2 ovens. So let me step back. Moved in, had the oven, and have had to have 2 ovens put in since then because the computer in the dang thing it just never worked in any of them. So I totally agree with that. I think we've made our things too smart, too computerized, and now they just don't run very well, and you're having to replace them all the time. But yeah, my oven does not need Wi-Fi. It doesn't.
Right. Exactly. All my appliances do not need Wi-Fi. However, I expect that my oven to actually heat things up, right? I want it to
Yes.
act like an oven.
Yes, exactly.
I need to get that one. My parents recently got a toilet that has like buttons to heat and like incline and change, and then their shower has a electric control panel, and you press buttons to change the shower head, and I still can't get over that. I'm like that.
Wow. I've heard of the toilet one because I think they've been doing that in Asian countries for a while,
Yeah,
the flushing and it, like, squirts your
yeah.
bottom and all that.
Hmm.
But oh, man. Alright, so then last question is, do you have a movie or a book or something that you've been consuming lately that you just think everybody needs to read or watch?
Well, you know, a movie or a book. I don't watch a whole lot of movies, but in the spirit of it, once again, I know this will be after Halloween, but in the spirit of Halloween, I have recently watched K-pop Demon Hunters, so maybe that might be a good one to have at least awareness of, because my guess is that is going to still continue to be pretty popular. Have y'all seen?
I have heard so many people talk about it, and I've still not watched it yet.
My kids had probably watched it 30 times.
Really?
Yes. I'll be honest, it was that was an overhyped thing that I actually liked that is
Ah,
overrated. Like, I got 10 minutes in and I was like, "Whoa, this is interesting."
yeah. Kinda like the Barbie. I mean, yeah, it was good,
Mm,
yes, but it definitely was overdone too.
yeah. Otherwise, I think in terms of, I usually read
Mm.
books. I'm trying to think if there's been any really good books I've read recently. I don't know if I'd have anything that I actually would like super suggest. Although actually, you know what? I take that back. I really did enjoy, this was maybe like not like super recent, but I really did enjoy Lessons in Chemistry. That was a really good book that turned into a pretty good show on Apple. Um,
Okay.
so I would recommend
And
that one.
I think that's because you came from a chemistry background, yes?
Actually, that was the reason I was resistant to read it for a while.
Ah,
And then I finally did, and I said, you know what? This is actually a really good book. Yeah.
nice. Oh, good, good. Love it.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Elisa. Like, already I'm coming out of this with some ideas of things I need to go secure up with how I'm using AI, especially with those roles and just, man, so much good stuff.
Mhm.
So if anyone would like to connect with you, where can they find you?
They can find me on LinkedIn. And I think my name there is Shay Alisa Duncan. Or you can also find me on Blue Sky. I'm trying to set that up, and it's alisaduncan.dev.
Awesome.
I will say too, you can find her previous talks on YouTube as well from different, I mean, what was there? It was like NG NGDE. ng-roam. Those are some of the ones you've given in the past year. So yeah,
Hmm.
check those
Yep.
out. And then for sure take her course. How many courses do you have on Pluralsight?
I have 3 courses published as
Nice.
of right now.
That's
Yeah.
so much
So
work. Like,
it,
seriously, congratulations. Like, I think people underestimate how much work that takes.
it is. Yes. Thank you. It is
Yeah.
quite a bit of work. So yeah, hopefully you enjoy it. Give me feedback. I'd love to hear from you on how I can also improve.
Awesome. So for those of you listening or watching, if you're watching on YouTube or if you aren't, come find us on YouTube and then like and subscribe. We'll have in the comments links to the Pearl site and to connect with Alisa. And tell us in the comments what your team does to create a culture of security. We look forward to seeing you next time. This is the Dev Life.